Hi everyone, my name is Nicholas. I'm the head GM for the Alternative RPG Club, and today I'm just going to take some time to talk a little bit about some of the games that we are running in October. These are all the games that we're running here. I'll just talk briefly about each one so you have some kind of idea on what this game is going to be like, etc. And what about the system is attractive or stands out to me. Okay, so how do you book a slot, or when am I going to run the game? The answer to that second question, when I'm going to run the game, it's up to you. So if you go to any of our games, you should find a register interest button. They are usually all over the place. It'll direct you to a form where you can select the game you want to play and where you want to play over here, and just leave your name and phone number as well. You can see it's a very short form, but basically what we want to do is, we had a lot of instances when I first started the club where people couldn't make the dates when I scheduled the game. To just cut down on all of that, we decided to, hey, everyone tell me when you want to play, where you want to play, and then we'll match you to the same kind of group, and then we'll figure out a time that works for the majority of the people there. It's just way better this way, and we get to run more games, and yeah, so this is not none of these games are D&D, so sometimes we do have trouble filling up slots. It's not really a case where four people sign up overnight, that kind of thing. Unless we're talking about Candela Obscura, that's because of Critical Role and everything. But so yeah, try not to wait. Anything that seems interesting to you, just click and we'll match you. And of course, the more locations you select, the more likelihood I'm able to match you with a group that wants to play at the same place and the same game as well. So just keep that in mind. Alright, so admin stuff out of the way. I'm just gonna go through the games. Okay, so the first one is Call of Cthulhu. This particular adventure is going to be set in Old Changi Hospital. This is actually a homebrew adventure that I'm going to write. I'm still in the midst of fleshing out this particular adventure. I'm actually trying to find some time to schedule myself to go on this night walk to Old Changi Hospital for a little bit of inspiration. So if I don't come back alive, you know what happened to me. But yeah, I think there's a lot of local Southeast Asian horror that is underrepresented in RPGs. This is not the first local horror adventure that I've written. I have quite a few as well. But yeah, if you want to learn more about those or experience those, let me know. Probably at some point I'm going to bring back the older local adventures, but this one, I'm still in the midst of writing it. But in generally speaking, what you can look forward to is it's 1997. That's actually the year where Old Changi Hospital closed. So you'll be working as the final shift in the hospital. I think by this point there have already been a lot of horror stories, old wives' tales, and stuff like that about the place. But you, as a skeptic, you've never really given it a second thought. Or maybe you have. And on this particular night, while the hospital is on a skeleton crew, weird stuff happens, and you and the rest of the people, the other players, will need to figure out how you can escape this hospital and solve whatever mystery or problem that I have yet to write. Yeah, that's Changi Hospital, Call of Cthulhu. And I've had some people ask me about the system, Call of Cthulhu, and all of that. So typically, this Call of Cthulhu is a game that's normally set in the 20s, but honestly, you can just plug it in any time, era, whatever you call that. And you'll see that later, actually. But classically, this game is played in the 1920s during the Prohibition era and all that Art Deco stuff. What's that? Yeah, it's like the Great Gatsby time. So yeah, that is that. And the other question I get about Call of Cthulhu also is, some players ask me if it's a difficult game to play. Honestly, it is so not. It's one of the most simple RPGs out there, actually, I feel. Basically, it's a D100 system, and when you create a character, I'll be creating a character for you because it's pre-generated. There'll be numbers here that range from 1 to 100 for each of these skills, and be intimidated by them. I know it looks like a pretty long list, but actually most of them are quite self-explanatory, like mechanical repair, locksmith, firearms, blah blah blah, right? One look and you should know what it does and all of that. So what you're trying to do is you want to roll a D100 dice. These are 2d10s, which will determine your first number and your last number. So if you roll 8 and 9, it's like 89, for example. Okay? And what you want to do is you want to meet the particular skill. So for example, if my firearms is, let's say, 80, because I'm a cop, I'm a crack shot, I want to roll like 80 or below whenever I test this particular skill. And there are all these skills here for you to choose. Okay. Oop. Yep. And there's Call of Cthulhu. Very simple system, very easy to play. Sign up if you want to. This is a very, Call of Cthulhu is a very investigative heavy kind of game. So you won't be doing much fighting. If normally in a Call of Cthulhu game, if you see something scary, you're supposed to run the other way, not cast a spell and try and fight the thing and, I don't know, get a surprise round on the creature, blah blah blah. You will most likely die. So just throwing that out there. I think dying in RPGs is actually quite fun. It helps you tell a good story with stakes. If no one feels like they might die during the game, then there's no drama in the game. So yeah, that's all. That's Call of Cthulhu. Don't be intimidated by it. Again, actually, for a lot of new beginner RPG people, maybe it's your first RPG or something like that, if you've been influenced a lot by, let's say, Stranger Things or what's the other one? Big Bang Theory, right? And that's what introduced you to RPGs and D&D, so on and so forth. Call of Cthulhu, I feel, for those people, actually makes a good starting point, because your impression of RPGs and D&Ds is more likely going to be, oh, we tell a story together and I'm playing a character and I make all these decisions. In D&D, is actually, I would say you still make decisions, but a lot of those decisions end up in combat because it's a combat game. And at least for me, I don't want that. I want to interact with characters in that world. I want to make decisions that are not just, hey, give me your money or I'm going to beat you up, or give me my quest item or I'm going to beat you up. I like Call of Cthulhu, and I like investigative games that have drama and stakes and characters. What can I say? Alright, we're going to... there's one game that I didn't list in the website, which is this one, Pirateborg. I don't know why it's... Okay, there we go. Pirateborg. This, again, is a very simple game. I don't know if the character sheet is here, but it's only 1 page long. Nope, the character sheet's not here. Okay, in this game, you're basically playing a pirate in the dark Caribbean. So it is influenced by real-world locations like Caribbean, Curacao, Port... What's the one everyone goes to? Port Royal, so on and so forth. Yeah, but it's a very simple game. You're just rolling it. It's a D20 system, so you just roll a single D20 and try to meet your stats for either fighting, dodging, or wits, which covers basically wisdom and charm. So we've already played once. The reason why I didn't list it in the website is because in September we actually ran this particular game, and I think the whole table, including myself, felt that it was more fun than we expected. So we decided we're gonna continue playing this particular game. So if anyone wants to join us for this particular adventure, please feel free to do so. Don't worry, we didn't cover like a super deep story or anything like that in the first session. In fact, they just got back to town, so it is the opportune time for them to onboard new adventurers and so on and so forth, and it's only been 1 session. Yeah, definitely no qualms about you coming in and starting the game with us here. I just wanted to show everyone some of my favorite things about this game. First of all, you get to play as an animal. these are like optional classes. Yeah, you can play as these things, but of course, you might run into some trouble, right? For example, if you are an aquatic mutant, you probably can't go on land. And despite what your expectations of a pirate adventure are, and you'll find that this is the same for any RPG out there that's pirate themed or nautical themed. That most of the stuff, important stuff, happens on land. There's only so much you can do on a ship. So back when I was running 5e, I was running Assault March a lot. And yeah, to be fair, the ship at players was like so excited to get the ship and everything, but honestly there's not much to do on the ship because you're always using it as a way to get from point A to point B. Yes, you can meet some NPCs there and things like that, but at the end of the day, most of your quests are going to be fulfilled outside of the ship. Yeah. The other thing I really loved about this game was there's this table during character creation when you roll. So in this game is genre is called NSR, New School Renaissance. New School Renaissance suggests that there is an Old School Renaissance, which is true. So New School Renaissance is okay. Let's talk about Old School first. Old School Renaissance is basically like old school D&D. Used to be a lot more about dungeon crawling, about random character creation. It's a lot more. There's a lot more risk of death in those old games, and there's usually like a certain charm to it. New School there's usually a slightly different take for New School Renaissance games. They are much more simplified while keeping the essence of OSR. Yeah, there's that random character creation and things like that. Don't be intimidated by this game again. If you're new, this is actually one of the I feel like a lot of NSR games are some of the best games to play when you first begin playing RPG, because the rulebook is thin. This is 168 pages, right? But most of these pages are for the GM. Like, you literally only need 2-3 pages to know how to play the game. And I'll do character creation for you at random, so you'll be fine with that. In fact, it's so easy to create a character in this game also that you can just do it in the middle of the session if your character dies. No worries. But yeah, I wanted to show this table because when you create a character, there is a section called idiosyncrasies, and you roll a d20, and you basically have one of these three traits. They have no mechanical benefit or what's the opposite of a benefit, right? There's no downside to it. There's no mechanical downside or upside to it. It just is, and it's usually so flavorful and so fun to roleplay with your friends at the table. Like, you collect something and you often talk to your collection. They are your friends. I know, whatever you want this to be. Coconuts, rocks, trees, doubloons, toenails. The list goes on. It's such a fun, goofy game, and I think we had so much fun with it. Surprising amount of fun. We've decided to continue this game, and I think you should try and play this game because it is awesome. Alright, next on the list is Candela Obscura. This game requires no introduction unless you haven't heard of Critical Role. It is an investigative game as well, supernatural investigation kind of game. So this is another game, I think it's on the website as well. Yeah, here. I can't talk much about it now because there are groups. So this Candela Obscura game will be like a series, a campaign series, where I don't know how many parts there's going to be yet because I'm always thinking about ideas on where the story is going to go. But right now we are at part 3, but there are some groups going through part 2 until the 28th, so I don't really want to reveal too much information about part 3 right now. Yeah, essentially, if we take a look at the game here, yeah, it's a supernatural investigation game like Call of Cthulhu, but instead the setting is Victorian steampunk. So if you think about in video game terms, it's Dishonored basically. It's very close to what Dishonored is, I would say. It's a low magic setting, so you're not casting fireballs, and yeah, basically you are Ghostbusters essentially. Something strange. You go investigate, try to find out what's going on, and stop the supernatural incursion, whatever it is. So this is the rulebook. It's not fully released yet, but we don't have that much information about the setting. Actually, I'm just basing it off where the players took the story and things like that, and I'm filling in the blanks myself for now. But basically, this game it's also a very easy game to get into. It follows it's very similar to another game called Blades in the Dark. Basically, I don't have the character sheet up with me right now, but these are basically your skills like survey, focus, sense, and there are others as well. But essentially what happens is you have 3 slots for each skill. Each one you shade in, it's 1 point in that skill, and each point you have in that skill you roll a d6, and you're trying to hit basically a 6. Result of 1 to 3 is a fail. A 4 to 5 is a partial success with a cost, and a 6 is a full success, so you get away with whatever you want to do entirely. Okay, so it's not a system where you add dice, it's just you take the highest number of all the dice that you're rolling. There are rules, there are systems in place that will help you get rerolls on dice, drives, and things like that as well. So I know what you're thinking. For some people, like, oh, I have to roll a 6 on a d6 to pass my test. This game is so unfair. But it's not supposed to be a game where you succeed all the time. It's a game. It has the philosophy for this type of game. By this type, I mean Forged in the Dark, which is role-playing system. The philosophy of this game is that you always fail forward. So even though you don't pass the test, something always happens and it pushes the narrative and story forward. And because you only pass on a 6, there's a lot of tension when you roll that dice, and it keeps ramping up and ramping up until at the end of the session it's like, I'm out of all my resources. I really need to hit this roll, and then you hit the roll, and it's a good feeling. Yeah, very simple system as well. I don't run. I'm gonna say this for almost every game because I don't really run very complicated systems. Because I run so many systems, I can't. I will never run Pathfinder right now based on just the number of systems and games I'm currently running. I just can't dedicate the time or mental capacity to run a game like that. But yeah. That's Candela Obscura. The next game we have is... I'm going to close some of these windows, free up RAM. Next game we have is Trail of Cthulhu. Yes, this one, the Kidnapping. Great. This one is a pre-written adventure. I selected it because I thought it was quite interesting. Unfortunately, for a lot of these investigation type games, I can't really give you too much detail on the synopsis of the adventure because there's going to be a lot of spoilers and you're supposed to discover like these things for yourself. But it's pretty safe to say for all these investigation things, there's going to be more than you expect out of a simple assignment, that kind of thing. It's a very common trope. So yeah, just keep that in mind. For this particular adventure, you're going to be sent to investigate the kidnapping of one of New York's most powerful families. And there's something else behind this kidnapping beyond your typical reasons for kidnapping. And being a game called Trail of Cthulhu, that reason is most likely going to be supernatural. And I believe that's all I can say that will not spoil you. So yeah, that is the Kidnapping by with the Trail of Cthulhu system. You're probably thinking, oh, I got called Cthulhu, now I got Trail of Cthulhu, what's the difference? Trail of Cthulhu, okay, let's take a look at Trail of Cthulhu I was showing you just now. Okay, so take this with a grain of salt because I haven't fully digested the system yet. It's also actually quite simple, but I just haven't fully digested it yet. So in a typical game of Call of Cthulhu, I mentioned previously, you're trying to hit like a certain number with your dice roll to pass the test and get a clue or perform an action, something like that. That can lead to some situations where you fail the roll. Let's say you enter like this guy's room and there's a clue in there, so you roll for spot hidden and you fail that roll. suddenly you don't get the clue, and it's very important. It's a very important clue for you to solve the case. Then players get stuck, games don't know what to do, etc. Personally, I use the fail forward method from Blades in the Dark and Candela. So even if you fail the roll, you get the clue, but if you fail the roll, you pay for it in some way, whether it's you lose health or sanity, etc. But anyway, this game has a different approach to it. So your general abilities are still dice checks that you roll for. So when you create a character, there are certain stats. It's similar to point buy. Don't worry about this character creation part. I'll take care of it with pregens, so don't worry about it. But essentially, you there are numbers here, and I think this is a 2d10 system. Don't quote me on that. I have not again digested most of the system, but yeah, you're trying to meet some number here again as well. It's a roll high. If I believe this is a roll high system. Is it? I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But essentially, the gist of how this game works is you have academic, interpersonal, and technical abilities. So these four, what are the most common tools you will use to find clues, or basically to find clues. And these checks or these skills that you use always pass in Trail of Cthulhu. Again, when you do your character creation, there will be points associated with the ones that your character is proficient at. So, for example, if you have 10 points in biology, if you enter, I don't know, the botanical gardens, I'll tell you straight away because you automatically pass. Hey, there is a flower in the exhibit that you've never seen before, and it looks so strange. So that's that. You don't have to roll a spot hidden to find the thing. The thing is, that's all you get. Now, if you want to learn more about this flower, or I want to try and dig into my biological research and figure out which country this flower is from, or where it's from, what does it mean to me, you can actually spend points in biology, so your actual stat score. So for example, if you have 10 there, you can spend like maybe 9. I'll give you one more tidbit. It's from South America. Then you spend another one. It's the Lollapalooza plant, and it tastes sweet. And then you spend maybe another point. I'll tell you, certain tribes use this to conduct X and X ritual. So that's how it works. Usually by the end of the session or the campaign, some of these abilities get a bit low. I'm sure there's some way to recover this as well, but from what I remember the general abilities, you get back your scores at the end of the session, at the end of the mystery, and then these, I can't remember right now how you recover them, but you probably do. You have to, right? Okay, that's Trail of Cthulhu. Next, we have another Cthulhu game, because people really like Cthulhu. It is Cthulhu Dark Ages. Remember what I said about Cthulhu being like a system that's set in the 20s, but actually can fit it anywhere, basically? Cthulhu Dark Ages is set, surprise, in the Dark Ages. So it's set in England, and you basically play like medieval folk, and there's like weird Cthulhu mythos stuff all around. So the setting is a little bit different. It is fantasy, but it's not high fantasy like D&D, right? It's real world fantasy, so you'll be living in shit and piss and mud. You'll be too poor to eat most days, etc., etc. And also, Cthulhu is the dark gods are raining terror all over the world, and you gotta solve the case. It's similar, but it's just in a fantasy setting. So this particular game will be It's called Here Be Dragons. Basically, it's set in a rural town. There have been some strange things happening in town lately. You're sent to investigate some murders and some strange behavior the townfolk have been exhibiting. Some of them have gone mad. A lot of them have gone mad. And then you start to slowly unravel what's really behind this incident. So yeah, that's Cthulhu Dark Ages. Yep. So you play as people like beggars, guards, farmers, craftsmen, healers, etc. Yeah, you're not. There are like warriors and stuff like that, but again, this is a Call of Cthulhu game. You're not casting. Yeah, you can cast spells, but they take a toll on your sanity, and you lose all your sanity. For example, even though we have a cleric here, this cleric does not have healing word. It's not going to touch you, and then suddenly you're up on the fight again. Usually, for a Call of Cthulhu game, you don't want to fight because your HP, if you're lucky, is going to be 2 digits. Otherwise, it's going to be 1, and it's not good. It's not good. Doesn't look good for you if you fight. You won't last very long. So yeah, again, this is an investigation heavy game. Bring your thinking caps, your role-playing caps on. Put them on. Okay, that's Dark Ages. Next, we have a cutesy game. We gotta take a break from all that dark and harrowing stuff. We are going to talk about Mausritter. So Mausritter is this one with the cute rats. As the name suggests, you are playing mice. This game is also an NSR game, New School Renaissance, a la Pirateborg. It is a different system though. You play as mice in this one, obviously. The adventure we're going to run is called Halloween. It's going to be a homebrewed adventure that I also have yet to finish writing. So, yeah. Basically, you are a bunch of teenage rats and mice, a bunch of teenage mice, and you're competing with other woodland animals to collect the most candy for Halloween trick or treat. But be wary, because there's an evil witch in the woods that may fuck you up. And that's Mausritter Halloween. It's a fun, cutesy kind of adventure. I'm thinking if I should make it like a little bit of a hex crawl, because we haven't done any hex crawls here at the Alternative RPG Club, so I think this would be like an interesting foray into hex crawls and discovering the map overall. If you guys don't know what a hex crawl is, essentially the map is, instead of being like a micro map like in D&D, the maps are always like, a tavern, or like this patch of woods where wolves ambush you, so forth and so forth. It's more like a world map, and each section is like a hex, and you discover something new every hex you go. And I actually, the more I think about it, the more I like that idea. So maybe I'll do this for Mausritter Halloween. Yeah, it's gonna be a hex crawl. I just decided. Yeah, that's it. And about the system. Some of you might want to know about the system. Okay, it looks really cute, right? The mice and everything like that. It is very cute, but it is also quite deadly. You are a mouse in a very big world. The rest of the world is human-sized. You're just a mouse. Look at the centipedes, and that's you. One sting, you're either dead or you are very close to death, which a lot of my players who have played Mausritter can attest to. Okay, but yeah, it's also another one of those systems where it is very easy to play. Let me just bring you to the rules part, okay? The rules, right, to play the game is this page. And maybe this page if you have magic. But magic is quite hard to come by. That's it. Literally, that's it. Everything else is mostly for the GM. Don't you worry about that. Very easy gameplay. And one of the things about this game, why it's so quote-unquote cute also, if you take a look at the character sheet here, yeah, okay, this is how simple the game is, right? You have 3 stats. That's it. Very easy game to play. And this is your inventory, and why is it all squares? Why do we have dotted lines and all that? Because these are your items. and you essentially what you do is you cut them out and then you paste them on like that, and you can draw your little mouse here. So it is a very cute game. This is a little bit of a gimmick. When I run this game, there are some players who are like go all in and be like, oh, I want to cut everything out, I want to paste everything nicely. But there are some players who are also like, I want to play the game. So they just write on the on their character sheet instead, which is fine. Whichever one that's like up to you. But of course, this being Halloween, your off paw will definitely be a jack-o'-lantern, a bucket of some sort to collect your candy. So, yes, there we have that. Alright, the next game we are going to play is The Walking Dead. So The Walking Dead is based on, yes, The Walking Dead, the AMC show, and the comic book. But I think it's very important for me to point out one thing about the game. It is not Left 4 Dead. The part of The Walking Dead it's trying to emulate the most is the human drama element in this game. So it's a lot of like drama between players, between NPCs and things like that. So all the things about you see the TV show, the conflicts that the characters go through, it's similar. It's really not about, hey guys, let's all go work together and bring an end to the zombie apocalypse. No. It's you go with this guy you kinda hate to get some groceries at the supermarket, and wondering when is the day he's going to backstab you and throw you to the zombies is essentially that's the kind of game it is. It's not, I'm gonna find my SMG, I'm gonna sell all my loot, buy more guns and kill all the zombies. It's not that kind of game. One cool thing about this game is that, like in the show, you most likely belong to a haven. You have a camp. You can upgrade the camp to get access to more things and more people. But of course, more people also means more mouths to feed, which means you need to go out and get more things and so on and so forth. You also meet other factions, just like in the show. A good percentage of these factions will have some conflict with you over something. So, but there are other factions you can make friends with also, and try to make alliances and things like that. So it's a little bit political in that way. Yeah. So that is The Walking Dead. Let me see if I can find the character options here. Play characters, create a character. Yeah, you got plenty of different types. There are a lot. They're more like archetype that you can choose them, and they have certain talents that you can buy for them, and they have different gear as well. So yeah, as you can see, character creation is these are the talents, but a lot of it is focused on the drama aspect, who this character is, rather than hey, what's my highest number? What stat? What build can I do? Can I what do you call it? Can I be a law enforcer but subclass into kid? No, it's not that kind of game. I want to be a nobody subclass into doctor. No, doesn't work like that. Yeah. Okay. So for the actual adventure itself, we are playing the game. Actually, it's going to fully release sometime in November, but the Kickstarter ended earlier this year. I think like June or something like that. I managed to back it. So the rules are like more or less out, and they've released a starter adventure called The Wolf's Den, which I'll run you guys through. Essentially, it's what happens in this adventure is that you already belong to a community. Thing is, a couple of members in your community have left camp with all your supplies, and you are desperate to find those supplies, because if not, you'll die. Also, the catch is these two people who left are lovebirds. One of them is married to the camp's leader, and the other guy is somebody who just just entered the camp with another group. So there's a lot of tension and drama there already. And in your group, it's like a mixture of like new people to the camp, old people, and they all have different agendas and secrets and things that they're trying to do during this mission, or different ways they wish this mission will go. There can be conflict in between players, and this is that kind of game. And if you like drama, and if you like to have a little bit of hidden role element in your game, you should play this game. Yeah. Alright, that's the Wolf's Den. I believe the next game we're going to talk about also is quite similar. Chariot of the Gods, Alien RPG. Alright, Alien RPG. Let's take a look at that. Alright, that's my... Okay, close this. I close this. Okay. Alright, so Alien RPG is also it's actually by the same publishers as the Walking Dead RPG. I think even in the art style you can tell the systems are actually very similar, as well as some of the themes. So again, for this one, you are playing essentially like corporate slaves, colonial marines, blah blah blah. Usually you're sent on a mission that has some kind of alien in it that you may or may not know of. And it's typically going to be in a very dark, scary place. And you will all have, again, your secret agendas. Like, you are the corporate guy and you need to do something for this corporation while you're in that mission. And that may put you at odds with, the colonial marine whose interest is, hey, let's get out of here as quickly as possible with with minimal deaths. But you're like, no, I need to get this research thing from this like super deep bunker in the laboratory. And it's like, how are you going to like trick or like convince your fellow players that, hey, we gotta go down here, even though it's like some of their best interests. Some of them will also be like, hey, if we get that research, we can sell it at a higher price, I can get out of here, etc, etc. So each one of your characters will have different motivations and things like that. So you're playing like colonial marines, company agent. I talked a little bit about that already. Of course, there's a kid also. But yeah, these are some of the classes that you can play. The artwork is amazing in this book. I love it. Again, similar to the Walking Dead one, this is definitely not the game where... This is not... There was like a new Alien game that came out that's basically Left 4 Dead. This is not that game. If you see an alien, you should run. And a cool thing about this game, if you get, I don't know, you get face hugged by a face hugger, like an alien or whatever, and no one else sees it, you can essentially do that dick thing that all the dicks in these kind of movies do, and not tell everyone that, hey, there's gonna be a fucking alien bursting my chest soon, You can still hold on hope and be like, no, there's a cure, and try to play the adventure that way. Which can be fun, which I think will be quite fun. Well, but okay, the adventure is called Chariot of the Gods. So basically, you're like on a routine mission for your company. You're suddenly awoken from cryo sleep early because there's like a derelict ship that has a distress call that you need to answer. And of course, on that ship, there's gonna be some scary stuff. And I already spoke about like secret objectives and things like that. It's Among Us, but it looks really interesting. This is one of the games that I really want to run this month. Yeah, definitely please sign up for it, because honestly, if I could, I would if there was a way for me to wipe my memory, I would, so that I can play this game as a player. But I've already read the adventure. Unfortunately, cannot do that. That's sad. Alright, next game. Everybody Gets Psycho. Monster of the Week. Okay, this is another adventure where I'm in the process of writing. It's also set locally because I want to set locally. The adventure itself is a published adventure, but it leaves a lot of room for you to place it anywhere. So I just thought, why not put it in Singapore? Why not? It's a modern day adventure. You have your, I wouldn't say modern day, like early 2000s, because of reasons I can't get into because it would spoil the adventure. But yeah, it's set in the early 2000s. Basically, there have been a couple of murders happening that basically committed by teenagers, and they seem to exhibit supernatural strength during this time. So you and your group of monster hunters, you all play like supernatural monster hunters in this game, need to like figure out what's going on and what's the supernatural reason behind this. This particular system is called Monster of the Week, and it's based on Powered by the Apocalypse, the system. Oh, look at that typo. You always don't see it when you type it, but it comes back. Alright, so this is like how the game works. Essentially, it's also a very simple game to play. These are your basic. So usually in these games, in RPGs, you have stats and all that. You do have stats in this game as well, but your actions are all determined by something called moves, and these are the moves you can do. So, for example, act under pressure is essentially like your wisdom save-ish. You want to help out, help your friend do something, investigate, kick some ass, manipulate someone. They are all pretty self-explanatory, and these are moves that all hunters can do. But there are also moves that are exclusive to your class. What do these classes look like? So you have chosen somebody who's basically like super good at killing stuff. Okay, so this is a better idea of what the character sheet looks like. You have all these moves that you can select that are exclusive to your class, and yeah, they do what what they say. Just another look at some of the other classes here. The Crooked, I guess it's a criminal class. You got Divine, you got Uncle Guang, Justice Guang behind you. You have the Expert, I guess that's your scholarly type people. But yeah, so yeah, these are all like the moves you can do. Super simple game to play. Yeah, I highly recommend it. This is so the whole idea for Pirate Apocalypse is it is a, obviously I think you can tell that this is a story first system. Again, this is not a kind of game where let's how many feet can I move and can I get flanking on this creature, blah blah blah. It's not that kind of game. You work together and you wanna and we're telling the story together. We're not like playing chess or like Warhammer. It's not a tactical strategy game. It's a role-playing game. So that's what Monster of the Week is. Okay, I think we covered adventure as well already, right? Okay, yeah, so that's fine. That's Monster of the Week, guys. Alright, Delta Green. Okay, this is perhaps my favorite system. I think I have said that to a few of you already, multiple times. But essentially, in this particular game is actually based on Call of Cthulhu as well. It's modern day Call of Cthulhu. Typically, in this game, you're playing like some kind of government agent, or somebody who works in the government. Basically, you are in this super secret group called Delta Green. And your job is to investigate these supernatural things and minimize exposure. So one of the biggest things about your job is minimize exposure. What does that mean? Basically, you have to cover up this alien activity. You can't expose the truth to the public or anyone else. And that's just like a really cool part of the game, because like you are the guy that's telling people, no, that's like a weather balloon, don't believe that's a UFO, but you have been inside of that UFO and you have seen your friend completely gutted. And that's a true story. Not the UFO part, but that's what happened in one of the games I ran for Delta Green. It's not a game. Again, it's a game where your character can most certainly die. It's very possible, but it's also fun, right? What kind of horror movie? What kind of horror movie where nobody dies on, right? Somebody has to die, and that's what makes horror movie fun. But one of the coolest things about this system I really like is in this game and in Call of Cthulhu and a lot of other Cthulhu games, you have your health bar, you have your HP, and then you also have a secondary health bar, so to speak, called sanity, and that's your psychological stress, all that kind of stuff. And the more you put yourself in stressful situations, the more supernatural things you encounter, the more sanity you're going to lose. And in this game, when you lose sanity, you can actually choose to offload that sanity loss onto somebody you know, a bond, a close person. So, for example, it could be your wife, it could be your son, it could be your dog, it could be your grandmother, it could be your colleague, whatever it is. And at the end of the session, when you act, because being in Delta Green is not your full-time job. You have a full-time job, computer engineer, scientist, whatever it is. When you go back to your job, go back to your regular life, you actually have to role play out like how that relationship has deteriorated. So for example, you go on a spaceship and you see your friend completely gutted, and you choose to offset that sanity loss to your wife, and then you go back home, your wife you see your wife and she pretends that she acts like everything's okay, but deep down you know that there's something out there that's gonna fucking get you, and you can't speak to her about it. And when she asks you why you're feeling so upset or why you look so upset, you can't say anything, and you feel the distance between you growing here. So that's great. I think this game does downtime like no other game, and I love it because of that, and also for other reasons. Also, because the horror in this game is it's set in modern times, so it feels very real. And even with all the technology that you have right now, it's not going to be of any use against the horrors that are out there, and that's the scary part. All right. Do I want to change? No. Next game we're going to talk about is Blades in the Dark. Blades in the Dark. Blades in the Dark. Oh, sorry. I guess we need to talk about Delta Green, the adventure that I'm going to run for Delta Green first. Oopsie. Link is broke. I'll fix that. But basically, for this adventure, it's called Sweetness. It's set in a suburban neighborhood where there was a murder recently. In America, I guess murders are a dime a dozen, but a home invasion murders are a dime a dozen. But this particular case got the attention of Delta Green because of a strange symbol that was drawn in blood on the door. And you're sent to investigate because the symbol has certain connotations according to Delta Green, and you need to know what the heck it's doing there and who did that and why, and so on and so forth. It's a great one. It's, again, very highly investigative. It's quite dark. Delta Green adventures tend to be quite dark. Call of Cthulhu tends to be, the 1920 stuff tends to be a bit pulpy, and it also feels far away, but this one it can get dark. Alright, now we can talk about Blades in the Dark. So Blades in the Dark sounds familiar to you because I talked about it when I talked about Candela Obscura. Blades in the Dark was the original system that Candela really took a lot of inspiration from. Some might say a little bit too much, but you know, to each their own. Anyway, the adventure we're going to play is called Uprising. So I'm going to do something a little bit different for Blades this time round. Previously, every time we ran Blades, it was like a continuing story. We are going to do a little bit of a soft reset for Uprising. The story is basically that there is a gang war on the streets. Again, this is also very Victorian London. Very dishonored as well, but there's a gang war on the streets, and you belong to a gang, a small gang, and you're taking this opportunity to rise up in the ranks and do favors for other gangs and things like that. So for Uprising, the way I'm gonna do it is it's gonna be a campaign-ish. All the players who play in Blades in the Dark Uprising are going to be in the same gang, whether you play it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. You don't have to come every time we run a Blades in the Dark game, but essentially each month, or maybe even every 2 weeks, I'll send I'll be like, hey, this is a mission for this week. You want to come and join this mission? And then whoever completes that mission, it contributes to the growth of the gang. Because in this game, you can similarly to The Walking Dead, you can grow your gang and you can get more advantages because of that, and so on and so forth. But it's up to you to distribute your points and all of that. But yeah, essentially, this will be West Marches style, I suppose, if you know what West Marches style means. Um, basically, basically, I'll send you all like little adventures that kind of grow the collective good in the end of the day. Yeah, and yeah, trying to build yourself into the biggest criminal empire in Blades and Dark Uprising. So this is one of the first games I added to the site. That's why there's so much stuff here. Nowadays, I don't really have too much time to update everything like this. But yeah, I wrote an article about it as well. Go take a look at Blades in the Dark. It's a super fun game. I've never had a bad time playing Blades in the Dark, and I don't think my players have either. Do play it. Very good. Alright, next game. Slaughter in Spittlefield, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Alright, this game is against the grain in a way for me. Warhammer Fantasy is actually, when it comes to combat in this game, it can get quite crunchy, but yeah, just take a look at the art. I just want to show the art for this game as well. It's because the art can explain so much about this setting that I can't for you. It's grimdark, it's bleak, but it's also very funny, and there's a lot of like really random stuff, over the top cults and things like that all over the place. This game also, the characters you play are very, yeah, like these are the classes. Like you literally have a job and you have a career. You can be an apothecary, engineer, it could be a nun, you can be, there's a rat catcher in class. Let me find a rat catcher actually. Yeah, there we go, the rat catcher. There's like a lot of things you can be, and the idea for this game is that you're basically playing like the everyday man. You're not a great hero destined for I don't know, heroics. You do perform heroics. You're not the chosen one, essentially, and you're not the foretold in the prophecy that your group are gonna, the typical D&D stuff. You're not. And again, this is a game where you can be quite fragile, but also there are a lot of kind of things to keep in mind in combat for this game. But the setting is so fantastic. If you're still confused and, hey, isn't this game played with a lot of miniatures and stuff like that? It can be, but it is completely different. It's a completely different game from Warhammer, the tabletop game, where you have two huge armies and like they fight each other, blah blah blah. It's based on that setting and universe, but it's a role-playing game through and through. Not much difference from something like Call of Cthulhu or D. It's actually quite different from D&D. It plays the same way, but in a sense where there's a GM that tells a story and we all take turns to embellish that story basically. But yeah, but it's not. It's a fighting game, sure, yeah, you can get into fights and stuff like that, but that's not the best way to play this game. I think the best way to really play this game is to immerse yourself fully in that setting, and there's so much going on in this world and setting. It's based on real world Europe, even though it's not called Europe, and Reichland and Germany is called, the Holy Roman Empire is called the Altdorf and the Reichland, the Empire of Man, etc. Yeah, but it's just very thinly veiled European history, geology, things. Great fun, this game. Highly recommend it. But the adventure that we're going to play is called Slaughter in Spittlefield. Essentially, the 4 or 5 of you who are going to play this game are going to be from the same kind of adventuring guild agency kind of thing, and you're sent on this mission that maybe you didn't expect, to help out with pandemic that's broken out in the slum quarter of the city. Unfortunately, when you get there, things happen. You are put under quarantine, and people around you in that building start to die. So you have a limited time to solve the case and the mystery and figure out what's behind this sinister disease. I won't say more than that. But if you're familiar with 40k lore, you may not 40k, but Warhammer Fantasy, you may have some idea about where this might go. Yes, beginner friendly. There's no prior knowledge to the system required, because I'll give you all the tools. Don't you worry about that. And do we have any other games? Oh yes, the last one, Dread. This is a very interesting game. Very interesting. Hell House of Folly Hill. Did I talk about Blades in the Dark as a system? I did not, right? Oopsie. Let me get around to do that later. It's not loading. Okay. Has the internet given up on me? Because it's 1:30 in the morning? Okay, it's back. Great. Okay, so this particular adventure is also going to be set in modern day. Essentially, you and a group, you are part of this therapist group. You could also be the therapist, and you and the gang are going on this group retreat somewhere in the mountains, and like a resort, like an old manor. Thing is, the house is a little bit shabbier than advertised, and spooky stuff starts to happen, and you're supposed to go there on an eat, pray, love kind of vacation, but the house has different ideas on how your healing is supposed to go. And that's the most I'll say about this particular adventure. How the game works is so interesting. First of all, the hook of this game is that there are no dice. Instead, there is a Jenga tower. Yes, a Jenga tower. And for you to succeed in a particularly risky move that you're doing, instead of rolling dice, you're taking one Jenga block out of that structure and you have to put it on top. And if that thing falls over, you fail and you die. You straight up die. But it's, you can already tell it's going to be a very fun, intense, and interesting kind of game to play. And these are all the characters. This is your character sheet. As you can probably tell also by now, this is a very, very storytelling heavy, character focused kind of game. And instead of filling your sheet with numbers, you are asking yourselves questions about what your character is. So for this particular adventure, this is not the one I'm going to run, but this particular block, this adventure is, you are university students trying to investigate a serial murder case. And yeah, these are questions, these are the different classes, the different characters you can play. And these are the questions that you should ask yourselves, and you fill it up, and it gives you an idea of how to roleplay this character. And yeah, that's Dread. Alright, cool. I think that's about it, guys. I will stop here. Thank you all for tuning in. If you have any questions at all, please hit me up on Instagram or on Discord. It may take some time to reply because usually I'm prepping adventures or I'm painting or I'm GMing. Yeah, just hit me up with any questions that you have. If you're unsure if a game is suitable for you, I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction as well, what kind of game you should play. Or if you just want to say hi, I can do that too. Yeah, another thing also, yeah, be sure to place your orders by the last day of the month, because the way it works is it's 25 session, excluding location rental if I need to pay for location rental. Yeah, that's that. But the way it works is, if you sign up for an October game in October, I'm going to charge you 35 instead of 25. The whole idea is that if you pre-order early, it makes my logistics and job a lot easier to do. I can just schedule the games and it works, If you sign up last minute, sometimes it can be difficult. to add new people in and things like that. So it makes, yeah, so it's just like a, hey, it's a reward for you if you sign up early. Thanks for making my job easier. Yeah. Okay, that's me. That is what I wanted to say, yes. And thank you so much for listening in and for staying all the way. And I'll see you soon-ish. We want to shoot some more videos about and go deeper into some of these systems as well. But, alright, there we go. Thanks. Peace.